Hello and welcome to Books Board, and tonight we're going to do a slightly unusual one. We're going to look at an RPG and a role-playing game, and it's one that caught my eye and I finally got my hands on it, which is End of the World by FFG. It's part of the End of the World series by FFG, and this one is Alien Invasion. So, just having a look at the book, first impressions, seeing what I think of it so far. It's been a long time since I've done an RPG, so hopefully it's quite cool. Now, let's have a look. There's a lot of little nice touches. Actually, let's go to the very back. So the front cover, you've got the Alien Invasion sort of theme going on. The back, End of the World is a series of role-playing games. Unlike traditional games you're used to, you don't play a figure out of history or fantasy, you play yourself, which was kind of what caught my eye. And then we're going to go on to the bit about the Alien Invasion. So it's the end of the world as we know it. We are not alone in the universe. Hostile visitors descend from the stars. Their technologies is inscrutable as their motives. They come with flying saucers and death rays to fight us in the streets. Ants the size of cars swarm over entire continents. Reptilian shapeshifters infiltrate the highest echelons of international business and government. What can mere mortals do in the face of extraterrestrial annihilation? And then it's basically, how do you survive? How do you get through this? So what drew me to it, why I was interested in what caught my eye was this idea of being yourself, and actually the idea of GM and a bundle of guys suddenly discovering that the world is ending around them. So this is kind of the premise of the games and the series. As you can see, they're doing their role-playing game, and then out the window you've got some pretty nasty stuff going on. Presentation wise, it's a really nice book. We've got, in terms of layout, you get an introduction, tells you a bit about what RPGs are. Then there's how to perform tasks, the basics of how the system works. It's a fairly simple system, to be honest. How to perform tasks, how to create characters. There's a bit about the character sheet, what the categories are, features, equipment, and stress, which is quite a big bit of it, and how to resolve conflict. Then there's a bit for GMs running the game, which is the bit I'm quite interested in, and how to run tests, and how to, what the encounters are like, and managing NPCs and bits and pieces, and how to manage campaigns. And then it goes to really 5 different scenarios, 5 different ways that the world's being invaded. So let's have a look. Lovely artwork. Bit of a green thing going on. They do an introduction for each bit, which is quite nice, and all the way through you're looking at some lovely artwork. And it's very thematic. I mean, the whole thing is just brilliant. It's really nicely presented. Good hardback book, and lots going on. What I like about it is, it's been a long time since I've RPG'd, and it makes sense to me. So it's not a very complicated system. It's not really that, you don't look at it and go, blooming heck, I don't quite get this. It's fairly generic. You get votes and bits and pieces. You get sort of, whenever you develop characters. I mean, that's probably the bit that's a bit unusual, I suppose, certainly since I've played games. Determine characteristics. You get 6 points: dexterity, vitality, mental. You've got logic and willpower, and then social you've got charisma and empathy. And basically, one is offensive and one is defensive. And you you get 10 points, and you spend them on what you think you are, what you think your value should be. And then basically, the people who are playing with you vote as to whether you're right or not. And if they think you're actually too low, the group votes that you're too low, then you get raised a characteristic, and think you're being too high, you can be brought down in the characteristic as well. Then you get to choose features, and basically sort of things you can do, and skills. And then you've got equipment that you've got. You record the equipment you've got, and then you record traumas. Bit about how features work, which is quite interesting, quite nice. There's how equipment works. One thing I would say is that this is very much built in an American market, and in Europe we don't. it's funny because you suddenly realise how few weapons there actually are in Europe, and especially the UK. So you've got all kinds of things here that you simply wouldn't have in the UK, like pistols, shotguns, single shot rifles, automatic rifles, never mind RPGs and surface to air missile launchers. I think the last two they don't have in America either, but certainly in terms of firearms, it's much more restricted in the UK. So I can see this being the kind of thing that you think, okay, so actually you need to maybe scoot a little bit to European. You're not going to be coming out fighting. You're going to spend most of your time running, I suspect. There's a bit about how trauma works and how death works, the different types of death that there are in the game. And I guess it's up to and how conflicts resolved, what attacks look like, and how that works. Then you get a bit of the art for the game master, which is how to run the game, how to plan your stories, how to run tests, how to plan a campaign. And to be honest, that's kind of, so you're looking at 48 pages of preamble, because the bit that you're really interested in is going to be the scenarios. So the scenarios are really quite nice. War Between Worlds is the first scenario, and basically it's about the Greys, and also then come the Reds. And this is manic. I mean, I'm not going to go into it in much detail and spoil it for you, but as a scenario, it's a bit mad, and it's a bit like Mars Attacks / every invasion movie you've ever seen with Greys in it. It kind of X-Files, Mars Attacks, all of it into one. They give you some stats for different things that you're likely to encounter, and then they say, right, okay, what happens after the apocalypse? So that you get during the apocalypse, and then if you want to extend your campaign a little bit further, what happens next? And War Between Worlds, suffice it to say, things don't necessarily work out as nice as you think they're going to. Then you go to the second one's Brotherhood of Babylon, which is basically that there's been reptiles, sort of. Basically we've got these ancient godlike figures of lizard men type things, and it's quite an old one. So basically we've got key leaders who've been taken over by are actually lizard men and are actually hiding, and they basically are trying to get us to be a slave race, and it's quite a tricky one to see how you could play that, but I suppose you could. And again, you get your post-apocalypse, what actually happens after the apocalypse, and how that would look. This one I think looks really interesting, Rising Tides. So basically you've got alien life coming from the sea, and that's quite interesting. Now I just want to pick out this little bit. You get these areas, these sort of different places where things can happen. You get a really helpful timeline for each one. So what happens on day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on. So you can kind of get a flavour of time in this. But also you get different different places. So like vignettes and events and encounters. So for instance, the battlefront, things that could happen. PCs see military convoys coming into the area. Clearly a battle is coming. Or maybe they're caught near an artillery blast and the PCs find themselves temporarily deafened, or they come across an overturned truck full of supplies, guns and ammo, or a wounded soldier begs them for help, but the Atlanteans are closing in fast. So you've got these little vignettes, and it gives you a little bit of blurb about each one. So I really like that. I think that's brilliant, and I think I can see as a new GM that being really useful, and it gets you thinking about other things that could happen, and other things that you might want to run with. So that's your third one, the Atlanteans coming in from the sea and overrunning. And Rising Tides, you get this post-apocalyptic bit as well, which is quite cool. So, and yeah, it's quite nice if you want to extend the campaign. Now Skitter is great. It's giant ants, and this is kind of one I think would be fantastic, and very much 50s B movie. Really, really nice. And you've got your timeline, you've got your different scenarios, and you've got your different bits and pieces as well. So I quite like that. I like the look of that, and it looks brilliant. The post-apocalypse, so that's quite cool as well. So I don't know if that's what I'm going to run or not. And then you get the Visage, which is really Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Quite good fun. Completely different to the other ones. Which really up to this point, you know, you're looking at something that's quite invasion based in a traditional way. This is much more paranoid. This is much more nuanced, and I would say that I wouldn't tackle this as a new GM yet, just because I think it's I can see it being quite tricky to run in some respects, and yet it's going to be one of the most rewarding, I think. Be really, really cool. And then you get your index. So as value for money goes, I think it's quite good. It's a nice system. It's not intimidating to somebody new to RPGs like myself who hasn't played in years. It's really not intimidating. It feels flavoursome. There's a lot of flavour going on here. You get 5 different scenarios that are very different. In terms of, you've got the one with the greys, which is let me get this right. You've got, what do we call that one? I can't remember now. So you've got your greys one, which is War Between Worlds, which is a bit manic, a bit crazy, and a bit sort of kind of fun almost in among the carnage. Then you get Brotherhood of Babylon, which is very different again. It's kind of like you are very much rebelling. There's a feeling of rebellion to it. You go into the Atlanteans, which is a nice twist, especially in places in the UK where you know, in the word name and the phrase from coast, you're never more than 70 miles away from the ocean, or from the coastline. Then we run into the Skitters, which is completely different again. Nice little twist to it, nice little way of running it. And then that last one, Visage, which is completely, fundamentally different and feels different again. So there's real value in this book. I can see this being quite good fun with a group of friends who know each other quite well. With people who don't know each other so well, I'm not sure. I think the character generation will be a bit of a challenge, but it's great. It really is. I'm looking forward to running this, and I'm hoping to run it in September, I think, and I'll start and work out some GM stuff for it. Yeah, so that's my first one of those. I suspect this will not be the last one of these books we get. The other ones that are available are there's one that's about zombie apocalypse. There's one that's about sort of Twilight of the Gods type thing. So it's about, you know, nature turning on us, or sort of the more supernaturally stuff. There's alien invasion, and then the one that's coming out not too far away, which I'm quite interested in as well, is AI. And I think that'd be quite cool. So, yeah, really good, interesting sort of series, very accessible, and I actually really recommend it. If you've played this, please feel free to comment, and if you haven't played it, feel free to comment as well. But as ever, like, share, comment, subscribe. Yeah. I know it's a bit of a curveball, it's not our normal fare, but I was too excited, I had to pass it on. Have a good evening.